What's going on YouTube? Alphonsus of Team Gradelock coming at you with a trading card game match for this week. This time we're going to be diving into Future Card Buddyfight. Now I haven't been providing much other card games in a while, but fortunately after some weeks of Vanguard we're going to be diving into the other two games of Bushiroad, starting off with Buddyfight and Waste Schwartz will be coming at you for next week. Now I'll be providing commentary since some of you at Game On have actually requested this, so I'll do my best to commentate on at least both Burns on the left and Ian on the right as to their plays and what's going on. Also try to edit in some live counters for you all to keep track of, at least what's their live count at, because I know the live counters are actually a bit small. So now we're going to reveal and raise the flag. We get to see Burns on the left rocking Ancient World with his buddy monster as Martial Arts Dragon Emperor Duel Seeger, and Ian on the right with Legend World, the Asgard sub-archetype with Iceblade Joker as his buddy. Now starting things off with Ian going first, he gets to equip that little staff just to make him gauge, gauge one. Well, of course, he also gets Fimbulwinter in to already start setting up for a big Great Spell Ragnarok play. And fortunately to the staff, you don't have to pay the life cost that comes with those great spells, so it's an even major plus for him. And then we finally get to see him call a monster in the form of Frost Giant Hrimthurs, and going in for a decent 2 damage to bring him down to 8. Now that Burns seems that he would already go into Seeger, so pretty much what you want to start off with. As for Ancient World, you always want to, of course, gauge and draw, and then activate what the spell card, which is probably one of the best spell cards I've seen, which was Dragon Emperor Legend, which you draw a card, you gauge one, and you gain a life, which is pretty silly. And then from then on, he's just going to get ready for pretty much the big play to play Seeger. Of course, he's just going to be asking what the effects of Fimbulwinter are, because of course, especially when that soul hits 0, he gets to draw a card, but that also activates, or at least sets the condition for Great Spell Ragnarok. And let's just say what's going to happen next is going to be pretty funny, because you always want to start out with Seeger turn 1.
I buddy call! Martial Arts Dragon Emperor Duel Seeger!
Henceforth, moving on with the turn, we get to see, of course, Seeger's skill activates once he hits the field. You get to put any number up to 2 Dragon Lords from the hand into Seeger's soul, making him a pretty beefy character, especially when setting up plays for keeping him alive with double soul guard. Of course, after that, you want to make sure you get that gauge back so you can utilize some of the good counter spells that will help keep Seeger alive, especially against such an aggressive deck like Asgard of Legend World. As you get to see Seeger draw First Blood with that good double attack for 2 damage, knocking Ian down to 8. Now he has to figure out, what am I going to do? So of course you're going to do that little charge and draw to gain a gauge and draw an extra card. Of course, you can't forget to dump the soul for Fimbulwinter. Seeing Gluttony in his hand, it seems that it's just starting to really ramp up. And what Burns must be thinking right now is that he has to just wait for him to activate a big play such as Great Spell Ragnarok, because that spell nullifier is really good. Unfortunately though, Ian really didn't have any monsters in hand to play with. He probably had a spell or two and the Gluttony, but unfortunately he wasn't able to really act upon getting an offensive weapon, or even just another monster out, so that Seeger can maybe turn the head the other way and attack a monster rather than attack Ian straight up. And thing is though, things are looking pretty bad, but fortunately for him, he already has a well-timed Symbol Guard, which allows him to draw 2 cards at a cost of 1 gauge. But of course, the Breathing Guard was in the drop zone; he doesn't have to pay that cost. You get to draw 2 out of that. And so now, pretty much since the staff already has the gauge, he's now ready to at least get some offense to get Seeger's soul out of there, because that would be the main goal. Because of course, Seeger comes in with a lifelink of 5, so when he leaves the field for whatever reason, the player that commands Seeger will take 5 damage. And then we get to see a buddy call for Ian as he drops a size 2 monster for the drop and draw. What are you going to discard? Of course, your buddy Iceblade Joker, where you only have to pay a gauge for pretty much the most size-worthy stats in the game. Of course, for for a size 0 monster. And then seeing another Iceblade Joker being called in, they really have to try and make sure, okay, we have to get at least 1 soul out of there. And it seems that he just wants to at least keep a monster in the center field so that he can negate another 2 damage. Because thankfully, the regular form of Seeger does not have Penetrate. So he'll at least have to eat 2 damage there, unless he has a card such as Dragon Thunder or other destruction cards that at least leave the center open for a full 4 damage for double attack. Now, Burns still is trying to think in his mind what he's really going to be doing. So, of course, instead of activating any spells from his hand, which kind of gives off the fact that most of them would be counter spells as to just, playing another Dragon Emperor Legend and getting that card advantage and an extra gauge. Unfortunately, Burns decides to at least clear the field a little bit more, getting rid of both Ice Blade Jokers that Ian really had to use a lot of his resources in order to call. Seeing, of course, the drop and draw is still there, and he still managed to gauge. And by God, Legend World has probably one of the best gauge engines in the game. They are pretty much known for that. And now that they're going to see another Frost Giant, level 3, so he tries to do another Link attack to get that last soul out, but fortunately, Burns has the attack nullifier instead, paying only 1 life for that. So you can tell it's really hard to figure out what would be the main win condition for either team, or at least in either world, because they both have spell nullifiers, so it's really a matter of which key spells do I want to negate. It's going to be enough of a battle for either or, because the thing is that when you use those spell nullifiers, at least for Ancient World, you can't get that back from the drop zone, as we'll see later on in this match. And seeing Ian take another beefy 2 damage, going from 5 to 3. Now, another full double attack from Seeger, and Ian would be considered dead, and it's GG to move on to game 2. But thankfully, with, of course, Vermeulen getting that draw, and trying to see what he can do in terms of setting up, and seeing Gleipnir already come in, ooh boy, this is going to be a pretty big turn for him, if he can at least get either Great Spell Ragnarok up, or go in for Breathing Guard in order to pop that Gleipnir. And so, what's he going to do? Well, thing is though, that size 2 monster isn't going to be getting over Seeger alone, so you're definitely going to be needing a way to get Seeger into, I guess, a position where he can't do much. And now Ian will activate Breathing Guard in order to pop the Gleipnir so that Fenrir can come out and just start swinging at Seeger. It's going to be an interesting size 3 fight, because of course with the stats on each one, Seeger can still barely hit just right, 7 to 7 for both Seeger and for Fenrir. But thankfully for Burns, he has to say, alright, I'm paying life for this. I'm paying 2 life, and I'm nullifying that spell. It's no problem. And the thing is though, what happens next is that what Ian is going to do, he's actually going to activate Breathing Guard's secondary skill, which I said earlier. It's actually if Berserk Guard is in the drop zone of the player, he actually gets a chance to activate Breathing Guard from the drop zone. Now of course, before actually going on to do this, we get to see Ice Blade Joker come out again, this time as a hard cast. Now, even though that when he's discarded from the hand and you get to pay 1 gauge to Superior Call him, you have to regular call him, you gotta pay 3 gauge for that. And with Legend World, it's not really that much of a problem, although that gauge could be better used somewhere else. And now he's going to be using the Breathing Guard to get back from the drop zone by paying 2 gauge and discarding from the hand. Now, at the time of this recording, I honestly thought that you couldn't do that, because when I saw Breathing Guard, and I played Legend World too, that I thought after the spell nullifier or spell destructor resolves or gets countered, then you can activate the second effect, which I thought would be in the second, it's all under the same counter paragraph, that, okay, after you activate it, okay, now you can pay 2 gauge to discard a card and get it back to your hand. And so I ended up talking with them too, because I want to make sure the rulings would be legit, and that this match, it's not like any random shenanigans will happen, and I want to make sure I can try and be a good judge to make sure that is this possible. Because if that is so, then there's a lot of different I guess plays that I could have made in order to get to the I guess advance in my tournaments with my own Legend World deck. So thankfully, since I've contacted Arturo, the effect resolved, so Ian will continue his turn into getting Breathing Guard back from the drop zone and get it back into his hand. So now Burns may have burned a spell nullifier, but Ian had to burn a lot of gauge in order to get out Breathing Guard, and all in the end game to make sure Fenrir can hit the field. So looking at what Burns may have in his hand right now, you do see at least Spartan there, so it's not that much of a problem, and he does have the 3 gauge just in case. But seeing Fenrir go in, oh boy, that's going to be That's going to be the battle of the size 3s. Now, thankfully, what I've seen here from Ian is that he actually decided to link attack with both of them. Well, of course, it's it's pretty good because first of all, I don't think there's any way for Seeker to just nullify instruction. I don't even think he had a wrath trigger in his hand at that time. So it's alright. I'll take the extra soul. I can save my saving spells, as I may say, for Seeger for later when he goes when he evolves into Spartan. Now, seeing the thinking process that goes for Ancient World, it's a little bit like Bujin's in Yu-Gi-Oh, as well as maybe Vanguard in terms of Dimension Police, where you just have this one big bad monster that can just do so much, but you rely on it so much that when you lose it, it's pretty much almost destroys the entire strategy of your world. Because of course, Seeger it's an archetype in itself. So after Seeger managed to clear through Fenrir and putting Ian at only 1 life left, that buddy call saved him. He decides to activate the elixir, so he puts up to 2. Of course, gain a gauge, and he gets to gain a life on top of that. So the recovery strategy for Ian right now is to get Berserk Guard back from the drop zone so that at least he can use that on Ice Blade Joker in order to get rid of Seeger entirely. And he has to use quite a bit of resources in order to even get that far. And with a small hand size compared to Burns' hand size, it's going to be pretty much a desperate play. And of course, it's better to go all in and just hope that he doesn't have it out of all those spells in his hand. Which, of course, it can have Wrath Trigger, it can have the counter attack, it can even have just a destruction spell, such as the Dragon Thunder. But of course, he has to utilize everything in his power to just, alright, I'm gonna go all in, 2 gauge, discard a card, get Berserk Guard. Ice Blade Joker will swing at Seeger, and of course, since it's under 7k, it wouldn't hit, but Berserk Guard hits it for an 8k. So Seeger, nope. But
see
exactly what
Spartan!
Not exactly what I was talking about.
Now moving into Spartan, now this evolution at least does not have Penetrate, but it's Tempest Enforcer, the final evolution of Seeger, that actually do have Penetrate. But still, now he's swinging for 6 damage, and going into Spartan, it's now really just GG for Ian. And of course, he's going to take it like a man this time, because he has no other cards in his hand. So of course, with the usual BM manners, bad manners, Seeger would just defeat Ice Blade Joker and then go for Ian to signify for game 1. And so it's GG for Ian, but it was really up to Burns to make sure that Seeger was well protected, and he sure was, because he had the whole hand in order to get ready for the next game. And so finally, now going into game 2 of this series, now we're going to see, can we see Ragnarok this time, or will it be another Seeger stomping on behalf of Burns? So, seeing who gets to go first again, we get to see Ian going since Burns did roll a 1. Now we get to see, alright, what's going to happen this time? After the usual charge and draw, usually first you probably activate your spells, but then we get to see that Frost Giant one more time swinging for a mighty, meaty 2 damage, and Burns goes down to 8. So now he's going to draw his card, and of course he already has Seeger in his hand, so all he has to do is just gauge and draw and get ready for the mighty, mighty Seeger call. Because now he already has that 3 gauge all set up. It's only a matter of time, but I think it would be wise to just do the Dragon Emperor Legend to gauge, draw, and gain 1 life. And then pretty much that 2 damage just pretty much all bye-bye, because now we get to see
Buddy Call! Martial Arts Dragon Emperor Duel Seeger!
Cool.
And you never talk in the presence of Duel Seeger, and that man will be dealt with appropriately. So, moving into Seeger's skill when he hits the field, of course, put the Dragon Lords from the hand into the soul. Of course, you want to always at least put 1, but seeing the cards in his hand, he mostly has spells. And usually the monsters you want to put in wouldn't be the ones that, of course, give you gauge, or maybe nullify an attack, or destroy a monster. Whatever the case may be, you always want to have at least 1 soul in Seeger. Of course, if you might have Spartan in hand, of course, that's cool. If you have 2 Spartans in hands, okay, one of them is definitely going into soul, because you definitely don't need more than 1. So, when thinking about the situation right now, the major thing is the gauge power. Unfortunately, he had to put the gauge monster into the soul. So that means that he's only stuck with only 1 gauge at this moment. So moving into battle, of course, take out the Frost Giant and slash with the Seeger Tornado for 2 damage to eat, putting him down to 8. At this situation, it seems that he has at least Seeger on his first turn, and going into the next turn for Ian, he's probably going to end up using the drop and draw size 2 monsters. We're going to drop some monsters or drop some useless cards from the hand to draw. And this would make Legend World really, really interesting because now you get to at least utilize the cards in your hand, and of course you have some synergy between cards being discarded. Unfortunately though, he drew Iceblade Joker off of that draw, so it was pretty much a turn too late. It probably would have helped out quite a bit more if, drew Gluttonier or, maybe another useful spell. And so now the size 2 is going to be attacking Seeger, or at least, put him in the center at this play. He's going to attack Seeger and have anything during battle. Alright, you're going to do Berserk Guard to give that key +2 in order to get rid of Seeger's soul. So now, with Burns back in control, he's going to be looking at, oh hey, I think I'm going to be doing a pretty good job of just gauge and draw, gauge and draw. Unfortunately, it seems that he can't really do much else with, the protection spells that he has. So he's going to go straight into battle, and then he's going to go into Berserk Guard yet again. But now he's going to even respond back with a counter to make sure that, boom, that guy is going to die because he can't afford to lose Seeger out like that. So when going in for another 2 damage, Shield of Achilles come in to reduce the damage by 2, so Ian didn't take any damage this turn. He just simply lost a monster and a card. And then he's going to activate Elixir to put himself up to 9. So it seems that now the life count is getting, of course, it's almost even right now. But unfortunately, Ian wasn't able to do anything after that, not even call a monster or a weapon, just to try to figure out, okay, what am I going to do against this guy? And Burns could be in the same situation as well, but it seems that he'll have to, do I want charge and draw or do I not? And so he'll be forced to end up going straight into battle and trying to see if he can finish off Ian immediately. So this is going to be a little bit reckless at first, but playing nothing else and just going straight into battle, I guess against Legend World, it can probably cost you in the end because Legend World can be a very big mid to late game deck. And now he gets the Buddy Call Iceblade Joker back, and he's gonna probably up that 3 gauge. I think I saw Fenrir definitely as one of those cards that were rightfully sent to the gauge. And with this play, we get to see Ian actually go in with Iceblade Joker and Durandal to take out Seeger, which means the lifelink of 5 damage will be happening to Burns. And so from now on, he has to realize, okay, I have to really get Seeger out again. So he ends up using that magic card, Divine Dragon Creation, to pay 2 life and draw 2 cards. And the first card he drew just so happened to be the Buddy one more time. So the salt, please.
We need to witness the salting.
The salt! Seeger!
Alex, I need some salt.
Oh my god!
Choose skill.
Skill. That skill will indeed happen.
Alright.
So moving on with the play, seeing Seeger now come back with a full 2 Soul Guard is going to be quite the salt for Ian, because now he utilized a lot of his resources to get Seeger off, and it did work, but it all came down to utilizing that key draw power in order to get Seeger back out onto the field with a full 2 soul and making sure that I can make the comeback of a lifetime. So he swings at Iceblade Joker to make sure no more lick attacks, and he swings at Ian to put him down to 8. And at this point, Ian's wondering, okay, what am I going to do about this? I have to deal with Seeger with 2 Soul Guards for 2 turns. And it's kind of tough because he can't really do much. The 2 cards in his hand just so happen to be Gluttonier and another Durandal. So the thing is, he's going to be taking another good 2 to 4 damage all the time. So he has to say GG, and Burns takes it 2-0 with Ancient World and Seeger up against Ian. And so the first thought that went in Ian's mind was, where in the world is Great Spell Ragnarok? Well, 1 was at the bottom and 2 were stuck together. So it was unfortunate, but Burns did have Demonica, the 2nd card from the bottom, in order to nullify the spell. So Ancient World is really going to make a big impact on the meta with that spell nullifier and the size 3 searcher. And that's it for the Future Card Buddyfight match. I hope that you've enjoyed it. My name is Alphonsus, up to you, Gradelock. Have a good day, guys. We will see you next time. Take care.